a uniquely poetic, absurdist comic. And you got a lot of respect for that.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, something broke in you.
Yeah.
And you were all of a sudden doing, personal revelation comedy. I mean, you were a guy that if an audience member, interrupted you, you were like, I don't even know what to do with that.
Yeah.
You didn't even know how to do crowd work because it was beyond you.
Yeah, the act I was doing was kind of meta. It was kind of absurdist comedy. I wasn't really functioning as a stand-up.
Yeah.
How you guys doing?
Yeah.
I wasn't that kind of guy.
Right. You were doing if anyone interrupts this process,
I'm thrown off. Yeah.
Right.
This is fake.
Yeah. So what was the moment, if there or a series of moments that made you snap and get angry and realize that life is pummeling me, and this has to be relevant.
Well, I think it was. I guess it was having children. I guess having kids was a big revelation for me because everything in my life that meant anything to me was work and stuff, and
jerking off and ice cream and
that was like in this muddled outskirts of my life, this thing that I had to do because it was me patching together a personal life.
Yeah, but you were also you're a warrior in the sense that there was a time where you and Attell and DePaulo, you and Attell were battling for superiority. In a fairly
And he won that.
That round, yeah.
Yeah, he became the biggest comic in New York, and I just felt like I kept shrinking and shrinking and shrinking.
But it was a very conscious thing that you guys were friends, and there's nothing wrong with healthy competition.
No.
And the way that you both saw each other. I had him on the show last night, and he was manic and brilliant, and but he's a very different animal than you.
Totally different.
And the thing is that there was this real sort of leader of the pack shit going on, and you've always had that the struggle to be recognized for being the best fucking comic, that all of a sudden now you have kids and your life is no longer just about executing your will as a comedic talent and being recognized. You're responsible for other people.
Yeah, definitely.
And that sort of must have imposed on your sense of narcissism. Yeah. To have that responsibility. And I think the struggle of that first special, which I think redefined you, was you struggling with the fact that you might have a problem, a competitive problem with your children.
Right.
They were an imposition on your life.
Yeah, I mean,
but you loved them.
Yes. Well, they were an imposition because I loved them.
Yeah.
If I didn't care about them, there wouldn't have been an issue.
You'd just be one of those dads. Yeah, I got kids.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can't really spend much time with them, but they're there somewhere. I mean, like when you read about people, famous, great guys from the past, and their kids just were completely and utterly ignored by them.
And fucked up now.
And everybody just thinks that was a byproduct of how great that person was, and we all give them a pass for it. That's the way a lot of people think of that.
But I also remember a lot of this impetus about how you were going to handle kids and how you were going to break a pattern was that your father split.
Yeah, I wasn't going to do what my dad did. I also just, it was a huge thing for me, because I always thought that every second of my life should be poured into work and doing what I want to do.
And winning.
Yeah, and yet, well, I never looked at it that way. I've always been obsessed with the projects that I'm doing.
Right.
I always get obsessed with them as work. I never really had this thought of I want to be the best, or I want to be seen, or I want to be recognized. I just really wanted to keep being able to do what I do. I love the work.
Yeah.
And part of the work is showing it to an audience. I never would want to exist in a vacuum and not. To me, the whole point is bringing this shit to crowds and making them laugh.
Right.
But anyway, I had seen a lot of 60 Minutes episodes where they talk about a guy like Bill Parcells or whoever. And he just look at how he's so manic and he's so amazing. And then they talk to his wife, and she always has this kind of smile and says, "We just know that we don't see Bill from September 1st to February 15th." And that's you make a deal with yourself that's okay. And I love him. And they always say, and then at the end of the episode, Morley Safer says they're divorced now. Yeah. So. I always remember that, and seeing the kids going, "Dad loves football," and not much else.
Yeah.
And I always thought that's really not okay. If you're going to have kids, you should, don't have kids if you're going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I didn't. When I had my daughter, when her mother had her in front of me, everything changed. I just fell in love with this kid. I remember she was screaming in the delivery room. Really upset. She seemed particularly upset. I mean, kids are supposed to cry when they're born, but she seemed angry to me and upset. Like I expected to just, when a kid's crying in the delivery room, everybody's smiling.
Yeah.
Oh, look at her cry, you know. But I was really upset for her.
Yeah.
And they put her on this little table and they're putting stuff around her. Sorry.
It's all right.
Unexpectedly emotional. It's not a story that I tell a lot, so.
It's all right, man.
Let me have some water. Water is good. It washes away your love for your children, so you can talk without a shaking voice. They put her on this little table, and they're fucking jabbing shit into her, and they're just rough with her, and she's screaming, and her mother... It was a C-section, so her mom was being sewn up. Her mom was just taken away.
Right.
And I'm, like, in the middle of this. I'm between her mother, like, do I care for... Also, her mother is who I'd been caring for. She'd been pregnant for 9 months, and I'd been caring for her.
Yeah.
And it all had been about her, the mother. The thing that happens when you have a baby is, for the better part of a year, you live with pregnancy.
Right.
And it's all about that.
Right.
And then you sort of feel when the woman's in labor, you just think this is about getting this woman through this.
Right.
And when it's done, we're going to go, that she and I are going to go home.
Right.
You really don't, as much as you think you understand, you don't really understand that it's someone else.
You just know you got to go to the hospital.
You got to go to the hospital and get through this thing that we've been taking classes about. We've been reading books about it.
Yeah.
I've been coping with her emotional instability and her volatile, suddenly we're going to build a new kitchen. I got to go buy wood, I mean, stuff like that. And she was really into her pregnancy, and I was there with her.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just don't know till you see the kid's face that there's somebody who's now going to be with you for the rest of your fucking life.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know how that would feel. But when she came out, it wasn't about my feelings.
Yeah.
It was, this kid is scared shitless, and she's really angry of being taken out of her mom.
Yeah.
And I was pulled for 1 second. There's this woman that's been the center of all this.
Yeah.
She just got cut in fucking half in front of me.
Yeah.
They just made a hole in her belly and took this kid out. And she's being sewn up, and she's alone.
Yeah.
And this kid's over there, and she's alone, and I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
So I went to the kid.
Yeah.
And I got my head next to hers, and I said, she's screaming, purple face.
Yeah.
I said, it's okay, it's okay. You're going to be okay. It's all right. I'm here.
Yeah.
And she stopped screaming on a dime, turned and looked right at me.
Uh-huh.
And, kids can't see an inch in front of them until they're like a couple weeks old.
Yeah.
But she turned her head and opened her eyes and looked at me and stopped crying.
Oh, my God.
And everybody, all these practiced people said, oh, my God, she heard you. One person said she heard you, and then one woman who I didn't know what was, I just heard a voice say, she knows who you are.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah.
And then somebody at that moment stuck a fucking pin in her foot or something and had blood and just screamed again. But I didn't understand that I had a role in this kid's life until that moment.
Right.
And so it became about this kid.
Mm-hmm.
And she changed everything. And one way that she changed it was I expected her to be unhappy. I figured my whole...
In general?
Yeah, just because she lived in someone's belly and she was this, living this perfect life. And then you're taken out to where your skin is raw and being hit by the atmosphere and you cough all the time.
Yeah.
And you just, what an awful life. That's the way I always looked at it. Like, it's just terrible. And the moment you're born, you're coping.
Yeah. Right out of the gate.
You must just be
this
awful.
Is it.
Yeah. You shit and piss and just, diapers and just, what an awful life. But after that bout of crying, she was, within an hour, she was breastfeeding and she was happy.
Yeah.
I watched her eat her first meal, and I watched her shit her first shit. Like, I saw the system start working right in front of me.
Right.
And she dealt with it beautifully.
Yeah.
And I was inspired by her.
Well, it's interesting that
having a positive attitude about life.
Well, that moment where I think that happens when you're primarily want to have control of your life and the people in your life, and to a certain degree, and that you were there for your wife, and that moment of concern where you realize, like, there is this raw life in front of you.
Yeah.
And on some level, outside of you being the father, you really have no control.
No, I just had huge sympathy for this kid.
Right.
That was the main feeling that I had. and everything started to flow from that. And I also found out. I mean, I don't like babies as a human. Like I'm not wired for that. And before I had kids, I was really worried about having kids because I don't like being around babies. I didn't like them. I didn't feel sympathy for babies in the past.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how I would I thought it would just be taxing to be have someone screaming or crying, to not be allowed to things on paper that you know about being a parent. You don't sleep very much. They get you up in the middle of the night. I was like,
you knew all that.
Yeah, and I was like, I can't do that. Pregnancy gives you some training for that because your wife gets up in the middle of the night. She has to pee. She needs help.
Yeah.
Pregnancy is like a perfect training program for having a kid. It's the closest you can get anyway. But anyway, what I learned was that I could do it all. I didn't mind getting up. I didn't mind being bleary and unsleepy. I didn't mind her screaming and crying because I just had sympathy for her because I wanted her to be okay. So I found out that I'm a patient person. I didn't know any of this about myself. I'm a patient person, that I had capacity for love, for giving love and affection that I didn't know that I had, and receiving it, and that I was really interested in teaching her, in talking to her, and interacting with her. All this stuff that I never knew I had. So it made me, and all this stuff about my own anxiety about my life just went away because I didn't give a shit. I instantly knew that I'm going to get old and die, and I wasn't afraid of it anymore because it's about her now. It's about giving her a chance to be happy and have her own confidence in her own life. That's what it became about. But it was a struggle that I didn't give up without a fight, like you said. The special, and I laugh at that special for different other reasons than other people. I laugh at it because I was such a young dad. That shit's old school to me now. Your kid gets you up at night, so what?
But I also think it represents the conflict of it sounds to me what happened was, you've got to accept that, as I do, that we are and can be extraordinarily narcissistic. And we have those feelings that we create our world and we comment on our own brains, and you were primarily commenting on things that you imagined, and that at that moment it seems where you became emotional and in the moment where it really happened was that it shattered your narcissism.
It also taught me to be a man. It did what Coppola said it would. It taught me to be a man because you can't fuck around when you have kids.
Right. You
can't afford to go into a depression. You can't afford to go eat yourself into a stupor and lay on the floor. You can't do it. The kid needs to be taken care of, and the kid needs to be supported. I suddenly had a reason to earn money that was real.
And this whole thing is what really defined the next phase of your creativity.
Yeah,
because all these struggles are still real to you. You still eat ice cream, but now
I still
you have
do that
the kids.
stuff. But I've learned, and also I started to look at shit as a real man does. In other words, instead of going like, I'll have an idea when I have it, and fuck the fucking system, and the studios are assholes.
Yeah.
And, why isn't I getting the gigs? All that kind of stuff. Waiting around, expecting shit to just happen. I couldn't do it anymore. I had to start going like, okay, what do you want to do? Make plans. Make actual plans. Yeah. And execute them. Have an idea of how you're going to do it. Approach it as a very important thing that you do, and that's your job. Take it really seriously and be dedicated to it, not just in how you feel, but in how you live your life.
You can't live like a child anymore.
You can't do it anymore.
Right.
And can't do it. So that's when I started doing that. And I looked at guys like Carlin and Chris Rock and building a thing from a whole hour from the ground up. How do you do it? There has to be a way. These other people did it. Maybe I can do it. I'd been doing the same fucking absurd 40 minutes. I could never get above 40.
Yeah.
I was doing the same absurdist, silly 40 minutes of stand-up for a good 15 fucking years.
Give or take 25
close
minutes.
To 20.
Yeah, but no, I mean like...
give or take 20, 25 minutes. I would kind of switch in and out, but it's the same same backbone, and I hated it. I hated what I was doing. I'd outgrown, but I didn't know how to do anything else.
Right. And then the gift of real life hits you in the head, and you realize...
Yeah, made me go, I really have to actually try. I actually have to go up on stage and not be afraid of bombing, not because I'm so cool, but because it's my fucking job. It's my responsibility. But also, I think... And I need a future as a stand-up. I have a child.
Right. And also, I think you're probably not giving yourself credit for the fact that the evolution of your creativity, because I think you've always been a poet in the sense that you struggle to understand large, large struggles that people live in their life. Mm-hmm. And that you have a way of focusing down and capturing moments that are very specific. Like I brought up to you after I saw your Tonight Show thing, and this is when our relationship was a little strained. But there are moments to me that the moments I appreciate about your stand-up, are not necessarily the end of the joke or the flow of the joke.
Right.
But it was just that one moment where on the airplane where the guy's crouched, go into the smile, like like go ahead, and he's crouched in that horrible smile, and he said that's the last smile left in America. Is that the line?
Right. That's the last smile left in America.
Yeah, and I said that's fucking great, and you were like, I didn't even do the whole bit.
Right.
And it didn't matter that you were able to take what was fundamentally an absurd understanding of things and the way you created imaginary scenarios to sort of do your observational comedy and apply that same sense of poetry to real life struggles and conflicts. And it's always there.
Yeah.
So it's just an evolution of your creativity.
No, and I learned through this shit I did early on how to build jokes and how to make stuff work. Yeah. I mean, I think I still use the same fundamental skills that I had then, but I'm just applying them to something that people actually want to hear about for the first time, I think.
And I think that comics should know, if you're listening, and regular people, that the way you work now is that you literally let your old material die.
Yeah, I kill it every year. About every year.
What, literally, like you force yourself, you say like
never do it again. Yeah.
And you hold to that.
Yeah, for the most part. I do. I've had a few shows where I've crossed myself and said sorry to whoever I'm supposed to say sorry to and did an old bit. But it's rare. This is the hardest time I've had so far doing that.
Well, what's this, your 5th hour?
This is, I mean, the number 4 went into the series. I did, Shameless was the first time I did that. The first special was Shameless? Shameless was I did a half hour for HBO before that I built from the ground up. But that was
years ago.
30 minutes. No, not that one from back then.
Oh.
When I did Lucky Louie, the deal I made was a pilot and a half hour.
Oh, okay.
So I did a half hour one night stand, about the kids and stuff.
Yeah.
That was my first.
Oh, that was the kids one. But that broke you in the second wave of the Louie career.
That and Lucky Louie came out exactly at the same time.
Right.
And so that was the first time, and I'd done a half hour. It was about 40 minutes, but it was boiled down to half an hour that I hadn't had material I hadn't had a year before.
Right.
That was the first time I'd done that.
Right.
And then Lucky Louie, we shot the series.
Yeah.
And we wrapped in March of 2005 or 6. I can't fucking remember. And we didn't go on the air till June. We had a huge chunk of year where I just was waiting to see if the show was a success.
Yeah.
So I went on the road because I wanted to do an hour. I had this big thing in my head about getting 1 hour done.
Yeah.
And it's the smartest thing in the world I ever did because my thought was if I get canceled, I'll have something to build on to keep my life going.
Right.
If I get renewed, I'm probably on the air for years.
Right.
And I do believe if Lucky Louie had gone season 2, it would have gone season 10, whatever I wanted. It just needed to get over that one hump. So I thought if I got the show, I'm going to retire as a comedian.
Right.
So this is my last chance to do an hour.
Right.
Or the show's going downhill. I got to be a stand-up.
Right.
And so I started from scratch and built an hour of stand-up on the road.
And that was the first hour special?
First time I did it.
And what was that special called?
Shameless.
Right.
And I did it, and Lucky Louie got canceled in September while I was in the middle of that. It's the smartest thing in the world I did because I became obsessed with that hour.
Yeah.
And I actually started thinking, I don't know if I want to go back to work because I was loving stand-up like I hadn't for years and years. Because every show was high stakes.
Yeah.
Every show meant something because it was building that thing, and every show was new material, so it was scary.
Yeah.
And to watch this stuff actually work, and I learned all this shit about developing stand-up, developing an hour. And then in September, they canceled the show. And I said, can I please have a fucking hour? And they felt bad, the people that I worked for at HBO, and they said yeah, and they gave me an hour.
And then how many? And then Shameless.
And I shot that in November.
And then after that came All Chewed Up.
So after Shameless, I thought I know how to do this now. I want to do it immediately again, and I immediately started. I threw away every minute of it. That was the first time I thought of that idea, which is don't ever do this shit again.
Yeah.
And so when I finished shooting Shameless, I decided I'm never telling those jokes again, never. And I'm going to start a new hour. So I went on tour, and now I was doing theaters and starting to make because Shameless did very well for me. I started selling real tickets. So I was doing some clubs, some theaters, and I spent a year building Chewed Up and got that on film. Did that for Showtime.
And you premiered the film, right? Was that Chewed Up? Was that the film?
No, Chewed Up was just on Showtime. It was just a Showtime special.
And now, what's the movie?
The movie is then the next. After Chewed Up was done, I started working right away again on a new special.
Mm-hmm.
That one fucking got huge. That one became like I was doing 2-hour shows in big theaters around the country without any material from Shameless or Chewed Up. And I had been doing nothing but stand-up since Lucky Louie.
Yeah.
Like I'd been living as a professional comedian without any other TV job, nothing else, for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
I've always had some other gig since Conan.
Right.
And I was just so into I just breathing and living stand-up, and it was great because I had divorced.
Yeah.
And I was able to be with my kids for the early part of every week and then go do stand-up. It was like a perfect career companion to my home life.
And then you shot that as a film.
And then I had so much material, and also Shameless and Chewed Up were still on TV, so nobody wanted a new one from me.
Right.
And so I had this idea to do it as a feature film. And I went and shot it in Milwaukee and shot it. It was
a stand-up concert movie, which hasn't happened in years. No one's done one in years.
There's no need for them because there's HBO, but it's still an experience that I wanted to try to do.
And what's going on with that film?
It showed at Sundance, did really well there, and then we had one night where we showed it in 8 cities in theaters.
And how'd it go?
It sold out every show, and then we showed it again in New York City for 2 shows last night or the night before. It's showing in Philadelphia, I think.
And you think you're going to get big distribution on it?
Well, no, we won't.
Right.
I mean, we Epix is going to show it starting this weekend, starting Saturday.
How do you get Epix?
I don't know. I don't have it. I don't have it. All I know is that they were willing to throw it on TV, and they were willing to throw it on without... Because Comedy Central owns it. Comedy Central paid for it.
Yeah.
But Comedy Central is going to cut it down to 60 minutes from 90, and they're going to bleep it, which I knew going in.
And Epix paid you some money?
Epix paid me some money. They gave a little to Comedy Central and some to me, and they threw it on. They're going to put it on, and people will be able to see it on Epix uncut, and they can also go to epixhd.com, I think, and they can download it as a whole piece.
Okay.
So it's going to be available as its own thing for a long time. But so that was that hour. But that hour was that was number 3.
Yeah.
And then after I did that, I quickly got to number 4. I got to my 4th hour really quickly. And then I got the series.
Right.
And the series has stand-up in it.
Yeah.
So that 4th hour is cut in pieces. It's in the 13 episodes of Louie.
So now you're working on your 5th hour.
I got my 5th hour, which start this Friday in San Francisco, and I've got the hour ready, but through the fall it'll get refined, and I'm taking that on tour, and it's going to be the next series.
Okay.
It's going to be next season. I wish I could do more specials, but I can't do it. I can't do a special and have the same material in the show. I think that's ripping people off. I don't want to do that. Okay.
Well, see, that's a work ethic that no one has. And you do it without writers. No. I mean, a lot of people work to the point, there's a lot of guys, and I don't need to mention names, who everybody knows, that really haven't written their own jokes in 15 years.
Yeah, sure.
They become a personality. They hire writers.
Yeah, they become a refillable. They become a sort of just a rhythm that you can refill with any subject.
People can write for you, and you choose not to do that.
Yeah, that doesn't seem fun to me to do that.
Right, and that's an amazing feat, and I think any comic would know that. Now, I don't want to just rush over Lucky Louie, but I think that what happened there, and we don't have to go into the politics of it, but I remember you not dragging me. I was always happy to see what you made. No, I'm serious. You said I want you to watch this pilot. So you had the show at CBS, which wasn't right. That was Louie.
St. Louis was the first pilot I did, yeah.
Yeah, and that didn't go, but that made sense that it didn't go on some level. It wasn't going to honor you anyways. And then you did Lucky Louie, and then I remember you showed me the pilot, and the conceit of it was, once again, that it was very brilliant in the sense that you showed me this pilot, you explained to me, what it was. You said, look, what we're doing is we're doing the Honeymooners. That's what we're doing. And the set is the Honeymooners set. It is stripped down. We're doing, straight out, 1950s, 1960s television where the action takes place in almost, it was almost like television, like post-vaudeville, where you're dealing with almost play sets.
Right.
And that was your idea, is that we're going to infuse a modern sensibility into a classic context. And that was the intellectual conceit of it. Mm-hmm. And it was like nothing that anybody had ever seen, and the rawness was like nothing anyone had ever seen. And the conceit, I think, ultimately what happened was the conceit was lost. That the idea that we were doing the honeymooners and that there was something, an intellectual approach to taking something, classic,
right,
and updating it. I think some people were like, why didn't they make better sets?
Yeah, that's what some people said. And
right.
I remember being on the phone with Chris Albrecht, who ran HBO at the time, and gave me the show. And he was laughing about reviews that said the sets are so poorly constructed.
Right.
And he said, why would we let that happen unless it was on purpose?
Right.
Like, do they really think that I'm reading... This is Chris Albrecht.
Yeah.
Does this reviewer really think I'm reading this and going, oh, God, we really should have put more money? I mean, look at what we do. Look at fucking The Sopranos and this heavy production they put in everything.
Yeah.
Why would we do that unless it was deliberate?
Right.
The reason I did it that way, I wasn't trying to go back to Honeymooners so much as I was trying to scale back what had happened to sitcoms that hadn't helped them.
Right.
Because I hated every sitcom on the air.
Right.
Even the good ones. Whatever. Seinfeld,
right.
Friends,
right.
Frasier.
Right.
I hated them because I didn't feel like I was watching anything that was really happening or even being... They were all shot on film, and they were all... I can't. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I could go on a long time. But I felt like the audience was being cheated by these shows.
Yeah.
And it wasn't only the Honeymooners; it was also All in the Family. Was
right.
For me, the thing was that it used to be guys like performers like Jackie Gleason and what's his name? Fucking Carol
O'Connor.
Yeah, Carol O'Connor.
Yeah.
Were aware of their audience. They were. I remember seeing an interview with Jackie Gleason with a big long cigarette where he said, you can't do comedy without an audience because the audience tells you what to do. The audience tells you if it's funny. The audience tells you how long to sit with it. The audience tells you how to say it.
Yeah.
And it's true when you watch The Honeymooners that he was totally measured by the crowd as far as his rhythm and he would, when he got his laughs, he would live inside those laughs by walking around.
Right, yeah, of course, right.
Milking it. He would milk like you would hear a laugh dying,
yeah,
and then he'd shoot a glance at the wife, and the laugh would explode upward. And I love that kind of work. To me, that is a beauty in playing an audience like an instrument.
Now, let me. I don't know what the demise was, and you can tell me. And and I'm going to be honest with you. Do you think, because you're evolving into a very effective actor, do you think at the time that you did Lucky Louie that you were stifled by your acting ability?
Well, I didn't. I wish I'd done what Gleason did. You hear these stories that he never came to rehearsals.
Yeah.
Every cast member of that show that was ever interviewed tells that story. He didn't come to rehearsals. Every actor, every real TV actor really needs rehearsals in order to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And everybody rehearsed without him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he would just come in and go, all right, what are we doing? And he'd know half his lines.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't know the blocking.
Yeah.
And they just learned how to work around that. I mean, they really were brilliant that they could do that.
Yeah.
They also recognized that he was the whole show.
Yeah.
And that even if he stumbled through a scene, he would save it.
Yeah.
And actually, that stumbling is what made the scenes great, because he knew he'd have to save it.
Yeah.
When you're given a script and a week of blocking and rehearsal and repetitive and over again, all you got to do is do it.
Yeah, it kills the comedy.
Yeah, but when you are given when you put yourself on a high wire, I'm on a TV show, and back then everybody on the planet Earth watched The Honeymooners.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
right.
those who like HBO. It was like everybody watched. It was like 50 million people.
Yeah.
So in front of all those people, he'd be like, oh, okay, you could see him in some scenes, like, I'm not sure where I am or what's supposed to happen in this scene. I'm just going to do this. Bwah! And he would just be hilarious.
Yeah.
I wish I'd done that, because I have better instincts as a comedian than I do as an actor. And we rehearsed like a motherfucker. We rewrote. So we did everything I didn't want to do. When we started doing that show, I said to Mike Royce, who was my partner, we're not going to have a writer's room full of writers who are perfecting the scripts and rewriting every little line and like pouring over it on a big screen where everybody chimes in.
Yeah.
We're not going to punch up everything and change out the fucking punchlines every take.
Yeah.
And we're not going to have this thing where we block and rehearse all this stuff. But we did it, and it just eased towards that because we had a staff of writers and because that's how people know how to do it.
Right.
If I could go back, I would have done it differently. I would have centralized the writing more, and I would have not rehearsed.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would have let them rehearse. The thing that changed it, though, was Pamela, who played my wife. She was like a comedy team with me. That was a huge revelation for me, to get laughs with a partner.
Right.
I had never done that before. That was a massive thing.
Right.
So, and Pamela came from traditional television, and she also said, trust some of these people. Let them help you.
Yeah.
And I think that was smart.
But what was
Lucky Louie was harder than this series I'm doing now. It's just a huge amount of work. And you also
what was
have
the ultimate demise of it?
Well, a few things. I think the reason some people didn't like it is because what they had been fed in television didn't prepare them well for it. Everyone thought it was a laugh track. Everyone thought we put in fake laughs, and some people were really turned off by that.
So in the same way they didn't understand the context of the set,
yeah,
they made assumptions.
The set was the set because I just didn't give a shit what the set looked like.
Right.
The idea was we're going to go back to when these shows were funny, because they hadn't been, to me, funny in a long time.
And that meant doing it in front of a real audience without amplifying the laughter.
Yeah, exactly. Putting an audience in front of the stage and letting their laughs be in the show.
And people didn't know better.
No, and actually...
So it was lost on them.
Yes, they just thought it was fake laughs and shitty sets and bad acting. Whereas we were holding for laughs, which TV sitcoms are written by Harvard graduates who don't like audiences. They don't like people.
Yeah.
They're not popular people.
Right.
And so they hate the idea that audiences can tell them whether something's funny or not.
Right.
So they've built a system where they shoot on a stage in front of an audience, but they ignore the audience.
Right.
And they feed them pizza. There's only 10 of them left when they finish shooting. Most big sitcoms don't have an audience now.
Right.
And they have a man called the Laugh Man, and he puts in the laughs.
Right.
And the laughs are short enough that the clippy dialogue can continue.
Right.
Jennifer Aniston never looks aware of the audience when she's supposed to be performing in front of an audience.
Yeah.
On Friends, that's how old I am.
Yeah.
But... we had to hold for laughs, and it was a mess, but it was supposed to be. But most people thought, and we even had a thing like in Happy Days, Lucky Louie was taped before a live audience.
Right.
We said that before every show.
Yeah.
And everyone would still say it's canned laughter. I even read something on a website where somebody said they should have told people that it was taped before a live audience. That was a big mistake. We did.
Yeah.
But people remember what they... Anyway, that's why people didn't like it, I think. Other people just didn't like it because nothing's perfect. A lot of people hate everything.
Right.
But we went off the air because HBO was changing. I mean, everybody that's there now that wasn't there when I was there.
Right. It was just one of those...
We got great ratings.
Yeah.
We got great ratings.
It was a great show. But now this is the miracle. This is the perfect storm is where we're at now. And you've got a deal now that comics are now telling their managers. So
I want the Louis C.K.
Give me the Louis C.K. deal.
Yeah, that's what everybody says,
Because you've got all these different cable outlets. You aligned yourself with Effects, who basically said, like, here's some money. You said, look, don't pay me a salary. Just give me this money and I'll make these things.
Yeah.
And they trusted you enough. You had a big enough track record. You're a capable director. You're a capable comedy writer. You're a capable showrunner. You're a capable performer. And you're a stand-up. And they trusted you with that. You're like, it's like fucking, it's like Orson Welles.
Yeah.
Just and the money was nothing, right? I mean,
very little.
Not in the sense that, like, it was obviously money, but in the context of what money they throw away.
Yes.
On bigger,
way more money. Yeah.
Right. And so you took this all on. And the amazing thing about what's happening now with this show, and, I watch it, and I love it, and I love you, but sometimes my resentment gets in the way. But I do a joke on stage now. I actually say I don't know when my friend's success is going to seem like anything but an attack on me. I don't, and I say, like, I don't know why Louis had to call his show "Fuck You, Mark Maron," but that's what comes up on my television. But the thing is what I know about you is, like, people are like, I know, it's confusing to them sometimes because there's not a singular narrative.
Right.
It's got a raw feeling that people are like, I don't know how to react to the show.
Yeah.
But what I know is that this is Louis C.K. investing all his talents of everything he's done and all his life experiencing, doing exactly what he wants to do.
Yes, that is what it is. Yeah.
And the amazing thing is that you're making short films, you're doing stand-up, you're constructing narratives as they occur to you from your life experience.
Sometimes,
and also the amazing thing is your loyalty to the crew that you have worked with on your films throughout your entire career. That's more than the writers or anything else, because you're writing all these yourself, that your loyalty was to your cinematographer, to your set deck, and even to the point of the way you're lettering the credit letter.
My old Cooper Black lettering. Yeah.
Right. So this is you being a filmmaker.
Yes.
More than anything else, and I don't know if people really understand that.
Yeah, some of them do, some of them don't, and it doesn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, this has been a crazy dream. This thing, it's been amazing,
and it's successful.
Yeah,
they're going to do
doing another season. Yeah.
How many episodes?
13.
Now, how the fuck are you going to do that yourself?
Keep doing it? Well, I did it once, and I do ask myself that every day right now, and I'm already working on the writing. I'm trying to get the ideas. I don't want to take a step down from what I just did. I want to develop it. I want to get better. I think anything you do should be better than anything you did before. I mean, that to me is guiding principle.
Fine, but how are you going to do it physically?
Well, I just did it. I mean, I learned from just doing it. In other words...
Because a guy in your position now, like, why wouldn't you bring in writers?
Because that's not how it worked the first time. That would change everything. If I brought in a writing staff, it would change everything. The show wouldn't be good anymore. I mean, it wouldn't be what it is. Good or bad, whatever, but it wouldn't be what it is. So, I mean, I did it. I did one season. It was hard. It was really hard.
Yeah.
But
I did it.
Yeah, and I could only get better at it. Also... I had to do it without knowing how I was going to do it. Now I know how I pulled it off the first time.
A system is in place. You, out of necessity...
I have a company that we made. We had to do a huge amount of stuff that we never have to do again.
Right.
We had to find offices, some shit that's just simple, but we had to get, decide what system we were shooting on. We had to build a crew. We had to, hire a bunch of people, find a good workflow. We had to get fucking permits and a relationship with the state of New York and the city of New York, and all that. We had to bang out a union contract, all this stuff. We had to do all those things, and that was an enormous amount of work on top of, because I'm the head of the show, and everything comes back to me, even the union contracts and shit like that. So all that shit's done now. And we had to, it started with a pilot, not knowing what the show was going to be about.
Yeah.
So all that's done now, and I know how to do it. I mean, I edit the whole show. I write and edit the whole show on my MacBook Pro on a 13-inch. I didn't even use a 15-inch, let alone a 17, because I just like the intimacy of the little machine. I edited every episode on my little MacBook Pro.
Do you remember when you were editing Tomorrow Night on an Avid?
Yes.
That the process it took to put it from film
to
onto
go to
the
an
computer,
Avid.
and then there was one Avid in the city.
That's right. No, Doug Abel, who's editing this show. I edited some episodes. He edited some episodes, because I love editing. But Doug is my guy, and he edited.
And your cinematographer is
Paul Kessner, who I've been working with since I was fucking 22 years old.
And your set deck is Amy Silver.
My production designer is Amy Silver.
Yeah, who you've been working with forever.
Forever. Since Caesar Salad, my first short film that you were in, that you got cut out of.
I did cut out everything. I played guitar on the soundtrack.
Yeah, that's right, you did.
Was that Tomorrow Night or Caesar Salad?
Caesar Salad.
Okay.
But, I've been working with these people forever. And that's why I knew I could do it. I mean, when I went to FX, I had everybody wants the Louis C.K. deal, but it's not gonna be so easy for everybody.
Well, no, because no one can. This is what I'm saying. It's that same thing. Is you got a comic, it's like, let me do that. Who the fuck can do that?
Well,
I'm exhausted listening to your process.
A lot of it is because of technical knowledge.
No, you're right.
It's because I took that fucking AV class in junior high school and learned how to fix
computer.
That's why. It's because I learned how to fix a fucking overhead projector, and I learned how to rewire shit and fix it.
Yeah.
That's why I know how to do this stuff. Because when I was in high school, I got an internship at a local access cable TV station, and they had remote deck and camera setups.
Yeah.
And they had editing bays. And the only reason they don't let you use shit in those places is because you might break it. They're just worried that you'll break it. It costs money.
Yeah.
But I fixed that shit. Like, I became this techie kid. I was like this little nerdy kid who would fix the fucking cameras.
Yeah.
So certainly they trusted me with it. Like, I had the keys to every room in that fucking station.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even tell anybody. I would just take the shit out.
Yeah.
And I would shoot my own little videos.
Yeah.
And I'd edit them when nobody was using the editing bay. I taught myself how to do everything.
Yeah, that's
my
you.
phone.
That's all right.
Sorry.
No problem.
So that's what always gave me the license to do this stuff. And I know everything about filmmaking. Shooting on, we shoot on the Red, which is a high-tech, really difficult camera to use.
Yeah.
It breaks a lot. It fucks up. We use these huge Master Prime lenses, which are the kind of lenses they shoot movies on. They're enormously expensive. It's one of the biggest line items in our... We spend more on lenses than we do on anything else.
And it's interesting because your vision as a filmmaker and Paul's vision with you as a cinematographer, when you watch it, there's some parts of it where you're thinking like, it doesn't look... the way you shoot is not unlike Lucky Louie, that it's pretty stripped down. You're not using a lot of effects.
Sometimes. I mean, some shows, some of the episodes are shot like a handheld, let's just grab this moment. And some of them are shot like, no, we're using we're opening the lens all the way up. We have to measure everything.
Right,
the religion episode is shot very carefully.
But the tone of it is still pretty raw.
Oh, yeah.
On
definitely.
purpose.
Yeah, definitely.
And the great thing about it is, like, there's a signature moment that is, completely your, comedic vision. All of it to me is that the scene where you're having the troubled date with Chelsea Peretti and she gets into a helicopter. This is Louis at his best. This is Louis, as Francis Ford Coppola in Heart of Darkness. We're like, I need a helicopter for this one punchline.
Yes.
This punchline requires we rent a helicopter and clear airspace.
Yes.
And you committed to that.
Yeah, exactly. No, we had people working on walkie-talkies and all kinds of stuff. Yes, we had to clear East Side Manhattan airspace to take a helicopter off a bunch of times.
For a punchline.
Yeah, for a punchline that most people, a huge amount of people I knew wouldn't like because it's so absurd.
But that's
a lot of people say it's not. It took me out of it. I don't care. I liked it. Those things like the helicopter exist for two reasons. One is because just I like it, and also I did like. I get off on squeezing a lot out of very little money. And the budget for this show was tiny. And I wanted to show FX that I could do a lot with money. And there's a helicopter that does 20 limousines, which was a huge expense. There's no company in New York that has 20 limousines. We had to pull together and harmonize like 5 limo companies because they all had to be beautiful limousines. We didn't want any like Carmel car cracked windows.
This is for the bus scene?
This is the scene where
the school bus?
Yeah, I get all the kids in the school bus. And we had a fucking school bus that hit the fucking, we had to create this moment where it gets a fucking flat tire in a school bus is a huge production undertaking.
Yeah.
But so I wanted them to really see that, Jesus Christ, this is really a show. It's not just a bunch of, alt comedy kids acting awkward on a street corner.
Yeah.
And that the show continues to do stuff like that, throwing the bottle out the window and destroying a car. I love doing stuff like that.
That moment, that's one of those moments where not unlike the Last Mile in America, where I'm like, that comes out of nowhere but makes complete sense.
Yes,
like,
it's exactly what needed to happen.
Yeah.
And it's hard to defend moments like that when you're producing them.
Right.
Because Blair Briard, who's she's the executive producer of the show, and she's the person who makes everything happen.
Yeah.
She's the most enabling and incredible producer I've ever known. She produced Pootie Tang. That's where we met.
Yeah.
She was like, do we have to? I mean, it's such a stupid, silly thing. But she's like, she kept saying to me, I just want you to be aware that the bottle on the window thing, you can do it, but it's causing huge problems. The building doesn't want us to throw it out the window. It's a permit problem. It may be a safety issue, and the cost is enormous. And the effects people said it can't be done the way you want it to be seen. They said you're going to have to get a zip line and a bunch of squibs and blow up the car. And I just kept saying it has to be. She said, does it have to be that? Can you come up with something? Because it's not an important plot point.
It's the most important thing.
To me, it was. That's the thing, is to defend absurdity in production when it's expensive is you just have to go. You have to have the credibility to say, I'm very sorry. And also because I know production and I know technical shit.
Yeah.
I solved all those problems because I know how to do it, so I come up with ways.
But the absurdity injected in those moments where a guy makes a decision like that, where he hasn't done drugs a lot and he's in this situation that's clearly chaotic, it's outside of his life experience. How is that scene going to culminate in any other way other than a moment where you're like, this is beyond anything I understand.
It had to be. It had to be. It was really important. No, and one way that we do that stuff, it's all brass tacks. Logistics. The great thing about
after the vision, you have a vision, then how do you make the vision?
Blair needs to believe me that it's important, and then it starts happening. And like the helicopter, I said to her, "Can you get me a helicopter?" Like that was one of the first things I said to her when I got the pilot.
Yeah,
I said, "I got a pilot. I want you to produce it. Start working on a helicopter right now, an affordable helicopter." And we shot all this stuff, and she would once in a while report to me. I'm not finding a helicopter yet. Start thinking of an alternate. And I'd say to her, there isn't an alternate. Get a helicopter. And she'd keep working on it. And then she found this dude who was doing, he's a new helicopter guy.
Yeah.
He's the new guy in town. There used to be one helicopter guy. Yeah. This guy's new. He's competitive. He wants to get in the business.
Yeah.
And he had one day, she kept trying to drive his price down. It's fucking tens of thousands of dollars for helicopters.
Right.
She kept driving his price down. She couldn't get it low enough. And then one day, but because she bothered him enough and kept being tenacious, one day he said, look, I'm doing something for Comedy Central for some other show. I got to gas up and go anyway. I can give you an hour. So on his way to something else, he shot our thing. And we got it for fucking dirt cheap because she has relationships with all these people. That's why I knew I could do this show, because I had Blair and because I had Paul. Because Paul can pull together natural light, a few other lights, and he can work with really... I do everything the hardest possible way. There's no zoom lenses on my show. They're all fixed focal lenses, which means you have to change the lens at almost every shot.
Right.
It's an enormous amount of work.
Right.
And I knew that Paul could do it. I knew that Amy can take a restaurant and make it into 4 restaurants.
Right.
That kind of shit. So,
well, the amazing thing is that you do these things that are founded in your absurd vision and reveal your personal life, and then also sometimes you choose to do a narrative about bullies, which is very heartfelt, and the relationship with your kids, and even with Pamela, who you've worked with before in the park. That that what you're creating is a real human struggle and real deep comedy, and it's completely honest to your vision, and you can do whatever you want with it. And I think that people are really taking to it, and it's successful, and the people that get it and are willing to write it, I think you're changing the tone of how television can be made, and I'm very proud of you, and I'm excited for your success.
Thank you, man.
And it's great to see you.
Yeah, you too.
And I'm glad we had this talk.
Yeah, it's when you know somebody for a long time, it's a very valuable thing.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I mean, we were best friends for a long time.
I know.
Long time.
I know. Well,
it's hard. There's times where it's hard to be your friend's friend.
I know, but I don't have them. I don't. It's not like I have new friends.
It's not like I was replaced by anybody.
No.
That would feel worse.
No, I'm still the same guy in a lot of ways.
Well, look, I give you one, and you don't have to put this in the podcast if you don't want to, but what I would say, as far as trying to stay friends with somebody that you have a hard time thinking about what they're doing against what you're doing, is focus on them needing a friend.
Yeah.
It takes a good friend to stay with you in hard times.
Yeah.
It takes a good friend to stay with you in good times. Everybody needs support. Yeah. Everybody does.
Yeah.
So you're letting me down. If you see me doing something and you have a hard time coming to terms with it because you're feeling about your own life, what's really happening is you're letting me down as a friend. You're being a shitty friend by being jealous.
Okay.
So think about the other person. Just think about what they might need.
But like in my
I could have used you. I got divorced. I got a show canceled. I had some tough times. I could have used a friend.
But you didn't
during those times that were making you jealous. I was struggling. I was having a hard time. But doing the Louis show was really hard. Trying to keep my family together was hard.
But the thing is that in the way our friendship always operated, it was not that I was kept up to date in the day-to-day things. It wasn't a day-to-day call that we had. But it seemed that most of the time, the thing that made our friendship so deep and so strong was that when we did talk, we made each other feel better.
No, it's true, but you shut me out. You shut me out because you were having a hard time.
Okay, I apologize again.
Well, I apologize to you because I did it to you probably out of resentment.
All right,
ignored your emails because you ignored my phone calls back when there was no email.
Can we get back on track or what?
Yeah, I think we can.
Because you understand me, and not a lot of people do. And the one thing that, and even when I tell stories about it, it's just that you always, are able to, even in your weird way, and even if I thought you weren't listening, even when you did pick up what I was saying, that you were able to, give me a great deal of relief, fairly quickly, and I miss that.
Well, we understand each other's flaws very well because we share some,
yeah,
and we've known each other long enough to understand them. So that's why we're able to look at each other, tell each other about moments that we don't want to tell anybody else.
Yeah.
And to be able to have the other person go, yeah, I get it, instead of going, oh my God, why did you do that? Or
the only time I did that,
well, don't be stupid, do this instead, or whatever. That happens.
And the only time I said, oh my God, was when I realized that I had missed, so much of your life, and I felt horrible about it.
What's funny is I did the same thing when you got divorced the first time. I got mad at you.
Yeah.
And I know now why, because I was married, and I didn't want you to get out.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, because being divorced, it has changed my relationship to a lot of people that are married that I knew before.
Yeah.
It just changes things. People look at you differently. So
well, I love you, man. Let's just try to fucking
same
be
here,
better friends.
Okay.